Pick it up, ready?
No.
You're ruining this intro, just saying.
Today we're going to talk about 5 projects that we've learned sell really well for us. So we got a question the other day on Instagram. Go follow us on Instagram if you haven't already. But we got a question of somebody asking, what do you make that sells the best? Like, because there's a ton of different projects. What, as a beginning woodworker trying to make some money, what should I go towards to make money? And so we were just replied with the 5 things that we made the most of. We thought that would be a pretty good topic for a video. So we're just gonna roll through the 5 projects that are just kind of our go-to, explain what's good and bad about each project, what we've learned by building several of them. And hopefully that'll spark an idea for you. Maybe you can use these as your go-to, or it gives you the confidence to get off the ground with your business. 5 projects are so versatile and so ubiquitous that like you can incorporate.
Ooh.
I know, it's a big word.
Ooh.
I heard AVE use it, so.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
ubiquitous means it's everywhere.
Wow, you might have, okay.
So these are 5 projects that you can make so different and so unique that if a customer just says, hey, can you show me something XYZ that you've built, you can point to one of these projects and say, well, I can do it just like this, but in a door or in a shelf or in a cabinet, something like that.
And honestly, in your portfolio, people like to see pictures of things that they could see themselves buying. So if somebody wants a coffee table or they want some bar stools, but all your Instagram or whatever portfolio has in it is like super tiny, detailed keepsake boxes, they're gonna be like, I don't know if they're quite up my alley.
Let's just get into it. We'll quit talking at you.
That's our transition.
That's the transition?
That's our transition. Okay, so number 1 on our list of super common projects is a desk. We have made multiple videos on YouTube of us building desks. That is just what people want. Lots of people want and need desks, whether it's to fill space in a room or they genuinely just need a work area. We'll get a lot of requests to customize desks, whether that's cable management, wireless charging, certain types of legs that they want. But when it comes down to it, they're super simple to make and customize. So if you have a picture of one in your portfolio that somebody thinks is cool, they can look at it and say, hey, that's awesome. And then can we do 2 extra holes for cable management? And you're like, yeah, sure, no problem, super easy. So very versatile. There's a lot of directions you can go with this one. You can change the style of them, the look of them, the feel of them. And when it comes down to it, it's still just a really usable desk. And then a little bit more on the sales side of building desks and why we absolutely love building them. It's because it is great practice for you as a salesperson to upcharge, to add little extras, to add accessories and customize it for them. And really, as you customize and it takes more time and more materials and more skill, it's gonna naturally cost more. Whether it's labor, whether it's your hourly rate, it's the materials you buy, all in all, it will cost more. So, for example, somebody comes to you and they say, hey, I need a desk. That's great, that could be 8 million different desks. You can sit down and say, hey, what are you gonna use the desk for? Are you a computer gamer? Are you a college student? Do you want it for decoration? And from there, if they say, you know, yeah, I'm a computer gamer, I like gaming. You can say, well, from there, we can do multiple shelves for you. You can make different cubbies to hold the tower for your desktop computer. Cable management is a big one that people who do a lot of online gaming like to do. You can include wireless charging so they can charge all of their little, I don't know, pieces, accessories, at the same time while they're playing.
I just want to butt in here for just a second. You remember Sam? The guy that we built the liquor cabinet for, a good friend of ours. We just built him a desk, and we just did all of those things to his little desk. We have a batched furniture desk.
Yeah.
Just a pine top, chamfered edges, hairpin legs. Built him that exact same desk. We normally sell it for $200 whenever we batch out 5 or more. And we turned his, almost the same exact style, we turned his into like an $800 desk because we used an oak top, used 2x6 oak for the top.
Solid oak, big, thick,
and then
metal hairpin legs.
Then I made a long tray that did all of his cable management. We had a power strip in there, and then I routed out a big hole in the bottom so he could put a wireless phone charger through the top of the wood. And with all those upcharges, we changed it from a $200 desk that we would make out of pine into an $800 desk, and it really only cost me an extra like 2 or 3 hours worth of labor to get those other things finished.
Will this hold me?
I hope so.
Okay. it. I think we're good. Okay, number 2 piece of furniture that we do constantly is coffee tables. Everybody loves coffee tables. Most of what we see is somebody is trying to achieve a certain style, or they're trying to tie together a certain look in their living room. And a coffee table is a really easy way to do that. So that's what we see most of the time. Or somebody will come to us and say, hey, I need to match another piece that I have in my living room, so I need the coffee table to look like that. And honestly, that's where we get a lot of repeat customers. All right, so on the sales side of things, coffee tables are really good because it teaches you and it trains you how to follow up with your customers and get repeat sales. Because if you think about it, where do people put coffee tables? In their living rooms. And then if you look at a living room, think of your living room, it's probably where you have the most furniture in one small area. That reason being because that's the room everybody sees. You have guests and company come over and you sit on the couch in your living room around your coffee table, you serve drinks, maybe you have some end tables, a shelf in the corner, a TV stand. There's a ton of stuff in your living room. So if there's any area of your house where you want a really nice looking piece that you can, talk to people about, for people to compliment and point out the cool design features, it's your living room. So, starting with a coffee table. You build somebody a coffee table. They really like it. You follow up with them in a couple of months and you say, hey, how do you like that coffee table? They say, hey, yeah, I like it. It looks really cool. You could even say something like, hey, when I was in your living room, I noticed in that corner on the left side of your wall, there's a little space open, and I think it'd be super cool if we put a bookshelf in there. We can make it match your coffee table by using the same kind of wood. Oh, that's an awesome idea. I never thought about that. That would be super cool to have a bookshelf in my living room that matched the coffee table. And from there, you can start another sale with a repeat customer. So you put a really nice piece of furniture in somebody's living room, and what do people automatically start doing? They start comparing everything they have to that one piece of furniture. And when you're comparing MDF and particle board furniture to that beautiful oak coffee table that you just built them, they're gonna think, wow, I need to replace some of the stuff I have now with nicer stuff, or I simply want to replace some of my old stuff with newer, nicer stuff. So that's another awesome way that coffee tables are gonna bring you multiple sales. So coffee tables are a really good catalyst to train you to find repeat customers and talk to people who have already bought from you.
All right, next up on the list are cutting boards. You've seen us make a bunch of cutting boards on this channel, and that's just because they sell really well. It's one of those things that everybody uses. There's something that you can batch out and make a lot of in a short amount of time. They don't take up a whole lot of space, so you can kind of have them in the corner of your garage or in your basement or something and just have them ready to go. And the next time that you need to make a sale or get a few extra dollars of cash, you can just start texting a ton of people that you haven't talked to in a while and just said, hey, running this business now, was just batching out a ton of cutting boards, wondered if you wanted one. And that's a really easy way to make a couple $100 very quickly. It's also another thing that you can approach businesses with. One thing my buddy Bruce Ulrich that he does, he makes cutting boards for closing gifts. So he's got a really good connection with a bunch of realtors in town, and he just asked him, he's like, hey, can I make cutting boards and you give those to your clients as closing gifts when they buy a home or sell a home with you. He stays really busy making a lot of cutting boards, and you can get super fancy with cutting boards. You can do the face grain cutting boards, which we do a lot of. You can also do edge and end grain cutting boards, which are also, they take a little more time, but they're really, really nice. And if you've got a realtor that's got the money to spend on really nice closing gifts, typically $50 to $100, you can really start to make a lot of money, especially once you start batching them out. That's also a really good opportunity for you as a business owner to learn how to scale. If all you need is an extra 2 or 3 clamps and you can make another 2 or 3 cutting boards per batch, that really raises your profit margin. So this kind of teaches you how to scale with a small product. That way when you get ready to do something like a restaurant or a department store and build all the display tables, you kind of already know how to think through a lot of products running through your shop at once. Yeah, that's why we recommend cutting boards are a great place to start if you're a business that's just trying to get off the ground and learn how to do this production thing.
They're like, what's a blanket ladder?
It's time for a field trip.
Taking a trip.
Hi, Brucey.
Hi, Brucey.
Hi, Perry. Is it gonna be lit? Next up is blanket ladders. Jenny made this one with just a jigsaw and a drill.
It was gonna be so mean if you just stopped and said, they're stupid easy to make. Jenny made this one.
All right, next on the list are blanket ladders. They're very simple to make. Jenny made this one with just a jigsaw and a drill. They do really well in a living room. They're really versatile. You can get kind of intricate with them if you want to. All it takes is just a couple of 2x4s. You can screw them together, plug the holes. This, again, is another good project. It's a little bit larger, but you can batch them out really quickly. So it's another really good learning opportunity for you as a business owner to batch 5 to 10 of these out and kind of move through the process of doing multiple pieces at once in your shop. These do really well at craft fairs. Also do the measuring sticks, you know, where you measure your kid's height on this stick and you can take the stick with you if you move or something like that. And blanket ladders are really easy to sell because you can also sell decorating packages with them. This is something Jenny's done. She'll like bundle, she'll take like a burlap sack that you get at Walmart or something like that, and she'll put like 4 seasons worth of decorations in each one from like Hobby Lobby or somewhere. And she'll sell that bag of decorations for 20 bucks along with the blanket ladder for about 50 or 60. So for 100 bucks, you've got a piece and decorations already put together, ready for year-round decorating in your living room. A lot of people, at least in the South, where my family's from, we have a whole bunch of blankets and quilts that are family heirlooms, and they're just collecting dust in the closet. But you can put them on a blanket ladder, display them. That's another sales angle that you can go for. Really, these things are just so versatile for decorations. Just try to find out what's popular in your area and try to throw together a decorating package to go with the blanket ladder, because that's going to go way further than just having a ladder made out of wood that you're trying to sell. So this is a good way to learn how to market and take good pictures too.
Oh my gosh.
So the last thing we're going to talk about is kitchen tables. This is where you can really flex your muscles as a maker. If somebody's buying a kitchen table from you, it's probably not the first thing they've ever bought from you. Maybe it is, but this is a pretty high dollar item. Once you're starting to talk about like custom kitchen tables, you're looking in the $2,000–$3,000 range, just kind of depending on the size of the table. This is where you can learn how to make bigger items. You really have to think about your clamping strategy, your sanding and finishing strategies. It's just everything's different with a larger product. Everything changes when the project gets really big. It's one thing to do a bunch of cutting boards and a few other tables, but when you get 1 or 2 kitchen tables in the workshop, you start to run out of space really quickly. So it's a good exercise in learning how to, just manage your space, I guess. This is where you can really find out how well your shop is laid out, because if you can't make a large item like a kitchen table in your shop, you may need to consider getting rid of some things or moving some stuff around, especially if you want to do any sort of like production. You like my Crocs?
Ew, I hate.
These are my nice Crocs. But yeah, kitchen tables. If you're at the point where you're selling kitchen tables to your clients, I'm pretty sure you've made it, because that's something that their family touches, eats on. Like, people will trust you if it's like a small cutting board or something, but if they're gonna spend $2,000 or $3,000 with you to build a kitchen table, I feel like you've arrived. That person is definitely on your Ferris wheel. I hope these tips have been helpful. These are just the 5 things that we make the most of, that we feel have the best learning opportunity for a small business or a side hustle trying to learn how to build things. And there's all different types of construction. Like, we've covered small things like cutting boards to really big items like kitchen tables. If you can master those 5 products, if you can master those 5 products, everything is going to go your way, and it sounds like you're off to a great start as a business. So,
Anything else, Bruce? He says no.
All right, well, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. It helps out the channel a ton. It really does make a difference. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And then if you want to know even more detail about how we actually close sales, what we sound like on the phone, some scripts, our pricing structure, that sort of thing, we have programs available for purchase. We slow it way down. We don't put as much fluff and B-roll. It's literally just the information.
Yep.
Really in depth, really solid. We spend way more time on those programs than we spend on these silly weekly videos. But yeah, check out links in the description. All right, we're gonna have a couple more videos on the screen here for you to watch. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Second Son Woodworks. My name is Caleb, and today I'm going to be showing you how I built this DIY media console made with pre-finished maple plywood and dark walnut hardwood. Let's get started. Alright, so first step in this project is to set up my workbench. If you haven't seen the video where I created this workbench, check it out right here. After I got the workbench set up, I went ahead and pulled out the piece of pre-finished maple plywood. I got a 4x8 sheet piece. For those of you who are thinking about doing this project, just a heads up that the pre-finished maple is not the easiest to work with. It does chip, so keep that in mind. As you can see here, I'm using my chalk line to mark out the sections that I'll be cutting this plywood up into with my circular saw. I usually cut down the sections of a big piece of plywood like this in this way. I use my circular saw, I use the chalk line, and I use the chalk line because it's a good way to get a really good straight line without having that long of a straight edge. And then I take those pieces and I actually square them up fully on my table saw. This is a good way to do it if you have a small table saw like I do. From there, I went ahead and cut everything down to the proper length. Once I had cut everything down to the proper length and width, or at least the rough width, I went ahead and took out my table saw and finished everything up with the straight edge on the board. And as you can see here, I used some of this masking tape to tape off the section that I would be cutting. This helps prevent the chip out that happens with this pre-finished plywood. It happens with a lot of plywood, but it happens even more with this plywood because that top layer is super finished. It's been super interesting working in a completely new shop and not having the workbenches that I had in my shop back in Montana. And I've had to figure out different ways to use this table saw, for instance, on different work surfaces without having a designated outfeed table. But in the end, it's worked out, and it's all part of kind of having a portable workshop, which a lot of you understand how that feels. Once I had finished cutting everything down to size, I laid out the two pieces of plywood that would serve as the base and the top of the media console, and then I marked out the sections where I would be making a dado cut. There are many different ways to make dado cuts, as you probably all know, but today I'll be using my router to make these dado cuts, and I'll be using a piece of plywood as a fence, kind of measure everything out, and then I use the plywood clamp down to the workpiece to cut out the dado. There are a lot of different videos on the internet of people creating dado jigs that can attach to your workpiece in a really quick manner using clamps and a separate piece of plywood like this. It takes a little bit of time, and you have to double check everything, or else you might end up with a dado cut that isn't very straight. So I might eventually make one of these. If you're interested in that, you should leave a comment below, and maybe I'll make a video. But in the meantime, this works. You can place your dado cuts on this media console any place that you'd like in order to kind of structure the console in the fashion that you want. For this project and for my project, I went ahead and placed one on each end and then one in the middle. After finishing doing the dado cuts for the base and the top pieces of plywood for the media console, I went ahead and started cutting out the dados for the side support pieces that would be standing up within the media console. After finishing all the dado cuts, I went ahead and dry fitted the entire media console before I moved on to doing the glue up. To prep for the glue up, I used some masking tape on the outside of the dado cuts. This way, when the glue squeezes out, it won't get onto that pre-finished plywood and I won't have to sand it off or scrape it off. In the end, there was still some squeeze off, but this helped prevent some of it. At this point, I am ready for the glue up. Let the glue up begin. If you don't have bar clamps or clamps that are big enough to clamp up a piece like this, you can use pilot holes and screws and or nails with a nail gun to put everything together to give the glue long enough to dry. While I was waiting for the glue up to dry, I pulled my table saw back out and began cutting down the edge banding for the piece. I'm using this dark walnut hardwood that's about 1 inch thick, and I set my table saw to just about 1/4 inch thick to cut these pieces for the edge banding. After that, I took another piece of dark walnut hardwood over to my miter saw and I began to cut down the legs. You can see here that I began with a piece of plywood that I had cut the shape of the leg out with beforehand, and then I used that piece to get the miters for these legs to be exact with one another, and then I just used each leg one after another to shape them out. Next, I went back over to the clamped up media console and began to take all of the clamps off. From there, I went ahead and started to take off all of the masking tape and the excess glue. I had to use a chisel and a razor blade to scrape off some of the glue on some of the sections where there was squeeze out. After that, I used some wood putty to patch some of the sections where the dado cuts were not completely perfect. I used some wood putty that matches to the color of the wood after you just use a little oil. I am a big fan of using microfiber towels in the shop. They have a slight abrasive side to them, which is great for picking up dust and cleaning up workpieces. I then took the pieces of edge banding that I cut down on the table saw earlier in the video, and I cut them to 45-degree angles for these corners to attach to the top and bottom of the media console. Then applied a small bead of glue across the first piece of edge banding and used some masking tape to attach the piece to the media console. And then I did that to the other side, and then I used my clamps to tighten everything together. I may have gotten a bit excessive with the masking tape on these two edges. Once everything had dried, I went ahead and took off all the clamps and the tape, and then I pulled out my chisels and used them to or one of them to clean up the excess glue that had squeezed out onto the workpiece. I then cleaned up the work area and the workpiece and moved on to the next section of edge banding. I then took out my palm router and used a 1/4 round bit to round over the edges of the legs. I then used a flush trim router bit to cut down the edge banding on the bottom section of the media console. Following, I use my Craig pocket hole jig to drill pocket holes in the legs. Before attaching the legs to the underside of the media console, I marked out their exact placement. I then went ahead and attached the legs. Once the legs were attached, I took off the clamps and the tape from the previous edge banding glue up, flipped the piece over, did some cleanup with a chisel and a knife of some of the glue squeeze out, and then I attached the last bit of edge banding. If you haven't already noticed, I screwed up one of the legs and the placement of the pocket holes on the leg, so I went ahead and filled those with some dowels. You live and learn, you know. It was a mistake, but it is what it is. Like before, I used some putty to patch up some of the imperfections in the edge banding. Once the last section of edge banding had dried, I took off the clamps, and then I pulled out my sander to sand the edge banding. From there, I moved on to the last step in this project, which was to oil up the edge banding and the sections that I had patched with putty. I'm really stoked about how this project turned out. The dark walnut and the maple, really contrasting woods, and I think it looks nice. So thank you for watching this video and tuning into my channel. If you've enjoyed this, give me a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. That is the best way to support me. If you haven't seen my other videos, check those out too, and build something cool.
Screen here for you to watch. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Not many people know this. I guess that's the last time I can say that on this subject. But airplanes have always been a cornerstone of my identity. See, here's a picture of me as a kid. Here's a picture of the first airplane that I built and flew in my yard. And then here's a picture of my bedroom after I'd started building RC airplanes to fly in the lot next to our house. And if you try really hard, I bet you could find some terribly cringy videos of me in my yard flying RC airplanes in high school. So when a friend of mine reached out and wanted me to build a gift box for his flight instructor, it really struck a chord. It's been years since I sat in a cockpit, but I can't wait to get back. The past couple of years, I've been distracting myself with other things in the name of maturity, more realistic goals, saving money, or some other adult-sounding thing. But I'm not going to let those things deter me anymore. Life isn't a dress rehearsal, it's a live show. There's no do-overs, no what-ifs, no repeats. I need to be back in the air where I belong. That's how, at least best I can figure, I'm going to be motivated enough to work hard at my other goals. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, what does any of this have to do with woodworking? Hopefully, one day soon, this venture will bring in a lot of money and employ hundreds of people. We could put food on their tables, tables in their homes, and funnel the excess profits in cash towards helping others. And I can be in the air again. I don't want to buy a huge house, I don't want everyone to know my name, I don't want tons of exotic cars or a bunch of other crap. I just want to find a way to help other people while scratching the itch on my soul to be in the sky. So, we're leaving our jobs and moving to the south. I know we've talked about it quite a bit, but here's the real story. On our current career paths, there's no feasible way to chase the priorities I just outlined or stick to our life mission of helping the most number of people possible. It's time for a risk. For a lot of reasons. Mostly because we're young enough to rebound if we fail. Because those who we want to help are worth it. Because our future employees and their families are worth it. And honestly, because our sanity depends on it. We can't be employees anymore, at least not in the traditional sense. We just can't breathe. So, at our new jobs, for a few months every year, Jenny and I will be flying on a research aircraft gathering storm data to help millions of people evacuate and prepare in times of natural disaster. But more on that someday soon. With the rest of our time, we'll be trying to build this woodworking business that hopefully one day provides hundreds of jobs to Americans who know the value of hard work, who want to see the smiling faces of a family sitting around a table that they built, who don't need to take out giant loans to learn enough to make a living, and who will make a ton of money with which we can try to make the world a better place for everyone. We're so grateful for our experiences here in the Great White North and at our first job. It's been an amazing testing grounds to prepare us to do this at scale. The people have been great too, but it's time for us to go. And projects like this have come along the way to remind us that with the right priorities and plenty of discipline and lots of hard work, we can have our cake and eat it too. Or whiskey. Or I guess airplane if you're thinking big picture. But you get the point. So, that's our story. That's our next chapter of life. I know we've talked about it quite a bit, but that's what's going on with us. That's why we're moving. That's why we're trying to learn sales, is because everything that we want to do in life becomes unlocked by this woodworking business succeeding. I appreciate all of you for coming along for the ride and hitting that subscribe button. If you're new and this is the first time you're watching a video of ours, sorry, you kind of caught us in our feelings, but this is where we're at in life right now. And if this sounds exciting or intriguing, we hope that you'll hit that subscribe button and join us. All right, so the price breakdown on this whiskey gift box, right up front, we did not charge enough on this project. Originally, I wasn't going to do finger joints on the corners. I was just going to do butt joints with nails and glue. Then I just decided, you know what, hey, we're going to get this box joint jig eventually. Like, this is as good a project as any. At this point, we had stopped taking more orders, so our free time was more plentiful. And I'm doing a lot of rationalization, but the bottom line is we didn't charge enough. So if you use our normal pricing structure, for materials, it was about 3 board feet of walnut, which is about $24 in my area, and then miscellaneous glue and stuff like that, $5. When you counter in the labor, at $30 an hour, this box took 6 hours to put together, which is ridiculous. I counted time of assembling the box joint jig and getting it all set up and dialed in. So now that it's set, I don't think it'll take near 6 hours. This box is probably a 2 or 3 hour job now if I were to do it again. So the total quote should have been $24 plus $5 miscellaneous expenses for materials, and then $90. So what are we looking at there? So we're looking at a total of $119 just for labor and materials. Multiply that times 1.4 to get our 40% markup, and we're looking at $166. Probably would have shot for 175. Probably would have taken anything around 150 or over that. But in all honesty, we only charged $100. Back when I thought this box was just going to be a bunch of butt joints, I just thought that would have been a great price, and it would have been, but because we used the box joints and everything else, it really slowed us down. I still think we could have gotten this under 2 hours if I wasn't doing the box joints, especially if I already had some walnut that was milled up. I didn't realize how dull my planer blades were after the big rolling sliding barn door that we had just done before this, so I could have saved time on milling. I could have saved time on the box joints if I already had the jig set up. So anyway, all those reasons aside, we lost money on this project, and that's okay. I learned from it. There's a lot of really good things that we learned. We optimized a few things with the box joint jig. We understood that, hey, we need to change our planer blades after we do a really big job with really hard plywood. We learned that. So even though we lost money, it's still a really good experience for us overall. And we would definitely take this job again, but we'd probably price it higher at like 150, 175, something like that. That's pretty much the breakdown on this one. Let me know what you think. I thought it turned out really nice. It's by no means fine craftsmanship. The client wanted it pretty rustic. You know, it's a whiskey box. It's not supposed to be some like ornate, beautiful, like gold inlay sort of like gift box. This was just hey, there's some shredded paper in here. That's pretty cool. Let's make it rustic, and it'll sit up on a shelf. And yeah, it's a really cool project. So anyway, other than that, thanks for watching the video. Please hit the like button if you thought this was valuable. Really helps us grow and share this information with more people who can help get their businesses off the ground too. So thanks so much for the help, and thanks for sticking around. Bye.